Hi everybody, how are you? I'm just going to quickly share this here in our Ultimate Baby Sleep group. If you're watching here from the Batya the Baby Coach page, then you're definitely going to want to join us in our free sleep group, the Ultimate Baby Sleep group. I'll post a link in that in a minute. That is where you get to, that's where I answer live questions all the time. We have my team of admins and moderators in there. My right-hand sleep coach is in there, always there to help you. And you just get tons of value and videos and all these amazing things. So hang on, let me just post it in that group. And then I'll post, they're actually waiting for me because we've been doing this for a few weeks now. Okay, here we go. We are streaming it now into the Ultimate Baby Sleep group. Also amazing. Okay, so if you have been following me for the past few weeks, we have been going through our Baby Sleep Personality series. If you haven't yet seen those videos, we had a whole list of questions to ask yourself to try to figure out and hone in on who your baby is. Because yes, most children can learn to be champion sleepers. Most children can be taught, but you have to know who you're working with, right? And I've said this many times, you can't build a road to know where you're going until you know who it is that you're working with exactly. I'm just opening this up so I can see everyone here in the group as well. Let's see, Ultimate Baby Sleep Group. Yes, okay, I want to make sure I can see everybody's questions at the same time. So it's really important, if you haven't yet seen that video, to go through and really try to answer all of the questions to figure out what your baby's sleep personality is. Because some babies are super, super, super alert. Some babies are super sensitive. Some babies are super intense. Some babies are more adaptable. There's combinations of various sleep temperaments. So it's really important you understand who your baby is to hone in and figure out the best way to help your baby. So if you have not yet checked that out, I'm actually going to post it on in here. I definitely recommend you watch the video where we talk about the various sleep personalities, because I want you to answer some of those questions to go on in before digging into this one and watching, okay? Let me just post this in here so you can all see. Batya the Baby Coach. Let's see. Baby Sleep Personality intro video, okay? Go watch the intro video in the link below so you can learn what questions to ask to even figure out who your baby is and how to hone in on this, okay? Now, I was actually supposed to come in here last night and then earlier today, but I had someone who was sick, so it took me a little bit longer to get set up on in here. But we have gone through so far the intense baby, and I got a lot of responses about the intense baby. And intense baby doesn't only mean baby, it can mean toddler, it can mean older child, it can mean, goodness, teenager. Some adults are super intense, right? So I got a lot of responses when we were talking about the intense baby. But this week, we're going to talk about the sensitive baby. We've even started delving into the next sleep temperament, but I wanted to come in and help you really fully understand the sensitive baby, because again, how your baby responds to the world around him or her is very drastically going to dictate how to help them sleep and how to really figure out the best method to help your child sleep, okay? So before I start with that, I just want to make sure everyone who's watching, have you had a chance yet to see the video that I posted below? Have you seen the different questions? Oh, let me just post this up so everyone who's watching from over here can see. Have you seen the different questions in terms of what questions to ask, how to hone in, and how to figure out who your baby is? If you haven't yet, definitely go to that, watch that video, because we have basically a list of different questions to answer to figure out how your baby responds to the world around him in terms of transitions and everything like that. Transitions, stimulus, all these different things. Last week, we started honing in on the intense baby and got a lot of responses about that. A lot of people feel like their child is really intense with the world around them, has a really difficult time acclimating to new situations, doesn't do well, with adaptability and things like that. But this week, you might be surprised to find that your baby is sensitive without knowing it. So I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about the sensitive baby, okay? Because your baby might fall somewhere in between. You might have somewhere in between the spectrum of sensitive and intense. But again, understanding who your child is and how they respond to the world will drastically affect how you're going to respond to them in terms of their sleep, okay? Now, obviously, sensitive babies teach us as parents a new level of giving, a new level of kindness, because we might not necessarily be as sensitive as they are, right? So you have to almost, as always with parenthood, we have to oftentimes with sensitive kids more than other types of children, step out of ourselves, step out of our own zone and put ourselves kind of at a mind's place of someone else to say, hey, this is bothering them, even though this is something not even the realm of my existence that I would think would. Because mothers are sensitive children, they just have an opportunity to give in a completely different way, right? They might be extra sensitive to the noise, or a little bit not liking the light, or like the clothes extra soft, not like things too rough, might like things rough, might like not like the way this feels, and we might not even notice those things. And I'm not even talking about kids who have sensory disorders. I'm just talking about kids who are just extra sensitive with their environment, with all the different physical needs that they have. And it's so important to understand that, because some children are going to need that. Kristen, I've been saying my son is so sensitive from day one. There you go. So Kristen, you're going to want, or Christina, you're going to want to watch this to understand a little bit more about your sensitive baby and her sleep, okay? Sensitive babies are very in tune with their surroundings, hands down, whether it's visually, audio, smell, touch, taste. They're more in tune in a different way. I had a friend growing up, I remember told me, and now looking back, it makes sense, but obviously when I was like, an 11-year-old, I didn't really understand what she was saying. I remember her telling me she could smell the sunrise. What? I was like, I remember even thinking about it, years after that. What does she mean she could smell the sunrise? I don't understand. I'm not a super sensitive person in terms of, I'm sensitive emotionally, but I'm not sensitive in terms of physically. Like, I can't even understand what that means, but she has such this extra realm of sensitivity that she can understand what that means, that someone else, maybe if you're watching and you're a sensitive person and you're very in tune with your environment, you might know what she means. I personally don't. But it's those kinds of things that as mothers, and I have a very sensitive daughter, I have to really, really put myself in a different realm of thinking to be able to help her and understand her in a way where I'm not going to help a child that's more like me, right? Because I see the world this way, the way I see it. So when we have a sensitive child, with sleep especially, it forces us to broaden that horizon and see them in a different way. Okay, so sensitive babies are very, very, very in tune with their surroundings. Now, with their sleep, and I'm just looking at my notes here because there's so much to say about sensitive babies. I have a very sensitive baby. Okay, she is now 11, but she is my most sensitive baby. When she was a baby, she would squint or cry if the room was too bright. She would squint or cry if the room was too dark. As a toddler, I could never, ever put her shoes on tight enough. To this day, if she's like really upset, I take her shoulders and I really like push down extra hard. My other kids would think I'm abusing them or hurting them, but she craves that strong physical sensation. You know what I'm saying? So you have to know who your child is, and to this day, she's like that. So if you have a sensitive child like I did, her sleep is going to be affected by her level of sensitivity, right? She's not going to be the type of baby that falls asleep in a loud place, right? You might wonder, how come my friend can just like wheel my baby around in the stroller in a loud mall and she can sleep, but my baby like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? Or not even as in tune, is just distracted and crying because it's really bothersome to them. This outside noise that might act as a white noise to a different baby who's not as sensitive to your sensitive baby, it's going to be a major disruption, right? Smells, light, bothered by straps, car seats, things like that we don't even think of. What do you mean? It's safe. Well, my baby has to be strapped in. Maybe you can do something a little bit more extra, a little bit more soft. Christina's saying yes because she understands, right? These sensitive babies need this extra little push. So when this daughter of mine was 1.5, she was sharing a bedroom with her brother, and he liked to fall asleep with the nightlight on. He loved the nightlight. He wouldn't fall asleep without the nightlight. We were living in a really small apartment at the time. It's not like I had the option to put her in another bedroom. Wasn't going to stick her in the hallway, okay? Not in my room either. I didn't want her there. So, everyone was telling me, oh, she'll adjust. She'll get used to the nightlight. It's not a big deal. Don't worry. You want her to sleep with brother. It's not going to be a big deal in the end. She's going to learn how to transition out of it. It's just because it's hard. And in my early years of motherhood, I thought, okay, that makes sense, right? We have to teach our children to be adaptable, which I agree with, but only to the limitations and confines of what they're capable of, right? It didn't feel right to expect her to deal with something she hated, to expect her to be in this sleep environment that was so ridiculously uncomfortable for her, right? I ended up coming up with a happy middle ground. We had a really dimly lit room where it was dim enough that she was comfortable, but still had enough light that my son was comfortable with. You can't force your sensitive baby into an environment that is uncomfortable for them, because yes, we want our children to learn to be adaptable, to learn to let go, but there's certain things that we simply should and cannot force on them, like certain environmental circumstances that we can help encourage them to be more comfortable, right? Christina, I know you're going to be giving me a thumbs up about this because I know that's how your baby is. Tell me in the comments below, Christina, or anyone else who's watching who thinks they have a sensitive baby or toddler or older child or teenager, what were some of the cues for you to help you realize that your baby is sensitive, to help you realize that your child is sensitive and that they needed a little bit of an extra understanding, an extra layer of cushioning that had to force you to kind of be in another zone? Okay, you have to consider her reactions to the world. right? Just because other babies are okay with something doesn't mean your sensitive baby's going to be okay with it, okay? So let's talk about practically what you can do as a mother of a sensitive sleeper, as a mother of a sensitive child, right? We talked a little bit about what that means. And remember, as I'm going through all the various sleep temperaments, very few babies are going to be exactly the sensitive baby, exactly the intense baby. Next week, we're starting to dig in now to the adaptable baby. Usually people are like kind of mixes of all, but the more you understand who your baby is, the better you can parent them for sure, because being intuitive is all about understanding others, but also that you can help them sleep, which is again all about helping understand your baby. So if you haven't yet watched the video in the link below, please do that and ask yourself the necessary questions to understand how to help your baby sleep, okay? How to understand who your child is to help your baby sleep, okay? So number one thing you can do for your sensitive sleeper is to be calm. And I know I talked about this a lot with the intense child. I talk about this a lot with the intense child about neutralizing your emotions so they don't mirror it. Calmness for a sensitive baby is a different type of calmness, okay? You have to help your baby minimize overstimulation, okay? What do I mean by that? I have a list here of things I wrote down, okay? The world is exciting, but it's also exhausting for your sensitive baby. You can't turn off the world for her even if you try. You can't turn off the buzzing of the bees and the cars outside and the sunlight, but we can try to do our best to create a conducive sleep environment for your sensitive child who gets very overstimulated by all these extra noises, extra sounds, extra visual things, extra vibrations, extra things we can't even think of because they don't bother us, but they bother them, right? Try to get creative, okay? Sensitive babies might not need toys in their crib. It might bother them that you didn't realize. Certain lights, maybe soft music, maybe white noise, maybe absolutely not using white noise because it bothers your baby. You have to know who your baby is and how they respond to things. But you might have to repeat the same song over and over and over and over again. Instead of going through like your whole normal repertoire of beautiful bedtime songs, some babies, you can't do errands too close to naps because they have a difficult time going from being out and about to suddenly in the house because the transition of the new environment is too difficult. You have to get to know your child and figure out what calmness means and how you can incorporate it for your child, whether it's environmental, whether it's emotional, and you do have a more sensitive, intense baby, insensitive/intense, right? Watch our video on the intense baby from last week and you'll know what I mean. I'll actually post that here. Hang on. If anyone wants to see. Oh, I can't. Aubrey, my dear, or Celeste, or Adina, any of you amazing ladies. Anna, if you want to post that on in here, but I'll come in later. And I will post the intense baby video as well so you can see that. But whatever you can do to incorporate calmness is the number one thing, okay? If your child, whoops, my phone's just ringing. If your child really, really doesn't like, hang on, I just want to make sure this is not, okay. If your child really doesn't like noise, keep it quiet. If your child prefers a white noise constantly being there, try to create that. If your child has like a tag that's always bothering them, don't put them in that little outfit before they go to sleep, right? Certain things that you can't do, okay? So create that calmness as much as you can to create a conducive sleep environment for your child, whatever that calmness means, right? It can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be not running errands too close to naps or bedtime because the transition is too hard. Figure out who your child is to create that, okay? All right, next thing you can do, number one was calmness. Next thing you can do for a sensitive sleeper, sensitive baby is predictability, okay? All children thrive on predictability on some level, okay? Obviously some more than less, right? You have like super structured adults, that's me, okay? I like to wake up at the same time every day, go to bed at the same time every night, eat lunch because I function like this. I'm sure there's some of you watching who are horrified, more like fly by the seat of your pants, like to just kind of like, go with the flow, fine. But we all function on some level of consistency and predictability, hence most of us are tired at night. And if you're not sleep deprived, you're usually not as tired during the day, right? So predictability, because there is so much going on around with these sensitive babies, things that we don't even notice, stimulus that we don't even see is there that's constantly bothering them. Predictability, I can't say the word. Predictability is really important for sensitive babies and sensitive children because the environment is not consistent. There's always sounds changing and noises blaring and light sequences changing and, all these different extra things, taste and touch and the way the air feels and the temperature, those things are always changing. So in their mind, things are never predictable. So the more predictability that you can offer that child is a solid baseline to help them, the better they are going to sleep and the happier they are going to be overall, right? Her daily routine. Consistency with how she goes to sleep. Consistency with where she goes to sleep. Consistency with when she goes to sleep. Because those are the things that she's going to thrive on because everything else around her is constantly changing because she's so in tune with it. Right? Does that make sense? Okay? Try to keep things at an even keel. A sudden change in a routine for a sensitive child is a real change for her, okay? Like you might be like, what's the big deal? We're going on an airplane and there's a 3-hour time difference. Your sensitive baby's gonna be like, whoa, hold on a second, mommy. I do not even know what's up or down here. Please give me some predictability. And of course, I'm not saying to not go on vacations, but just be aware of who your child is and who your baby is because she's gonna have a harder time adapting than your go with the flow kid, or you if you're go with the flow, right? Okay? Just be patient and be understanding, okay? The third thing, number one we said was calm. Create that calm as much as possible. Number 2 is predictability, because everything else is completely inconsistent and changing because the stimulus is so much for them to process. The third thing is give it time. Give it time. What do I mean by this? All right. When you are teaching your sensitive baby, hang on, I need water. I've been talking all day. Okay. When you are teaching your sensitive baby to sleep, you might wonder why no 2 days are alike, right? Here I am talking about how the sensitive baby really thrives on predictability, but how is it that your sensitive baby could have such a drastic change in how she responds to her day-to-day? Because there might be progress one day. There might be a serious setback the next day. You might be in the middle of using some type of methodology for sleep training or incorporating naps or whatever you're doing, and it might look like this. Woo, right? And you don't see like a linear process. You don't see that it's getting better. You don't see that it's improving. And that might make you feel frustrated. It might make you feel like you're doing something wrong. It might make you feel like your baby is not responding well. You have to give it time, okay? Because it might feel like you're taking a few steps backwards, a few steps forward, and kind of staying in the same place, but you got to give your sensitive baby time to adjust because they are not adaptable. And every small change is the equivalent of 10 changes for a baby that's not as sensitive, right? Hence the whole predictability and calmness. So it takes this baby more time to adjust to new elements that are introduced to them in life. Always. It's going to take this kind of baby more time to adjust to new things. Okay, so let's talk about that, all right? We have this calmness that you must incorporate that will help your baby. The predictability that is so critical as a form of security. I'm not talking a baby, I'm talking a toddler or an older child. And then we have giving it time, okay? And I'm going to dig into sleep dependencies in a minute. Let me see some of the questions here because I saw you were all posting some things. All right, let's see. Christina, you're my right-hand lady over here with your sensitive. My son is now 7, and ever since he was young, he had to have the radio on. Now he still sleeps with the radio on and 3 nightlights. Okay, so he's sensitive that he's craving that stimulus, Michelle, right? Some babies are sensitive. Some kids are sensitive that they don't want it, but he needs it. He needs the lights on. He needs the radio. Right, you might think another child can't sleep like that, but he needs it. Christina, the squinting and crying anytime is too bright. Polar opposite of your child, Michelle, right? When it's too hot, he won't sleep. He doesn't want to be bundled or squeezed or confined. He wants freedom. All right, Brittany, my son is definitely a sensitive sleeper, and we live in a shared home, so he wakes up easily. Yes, these sensitive sleepers have a hard time because everything disrupts them. Let's see what else. Hey, Anu, how are you? Okay, so let's talk about sleep dependencies. For those of you who do not follow my videos, or you're not on the YouTube channel, or you're not in our Ultimate Baby Sleep group, you might not know what a sleep dependency is. So let me just tell you, it's kind of what it sounds like. A sleep dependency is when your baby, your child, is dependent on some outside source to sleep. Outside source usually involves you, but it could be eating, rocking, bouncing, shaking, nursing, bottle, pacifier, driving around in the car, anything that involves something that your child cannot independently recreate on their own for sleep, okay? So let's talk about sleep dependencies with sensitive kids because they are going to be a little bit different than another child because, again, they're kind of like their own special niche here, all right? Temperament comes into play, I cannot even tell you, so drastically when we're talking about the different sleep temperaments, the different sleep personalities, which is why I'm doing this series because, obviously, I'm here to always teach you about sleep, but there's no like blanket statement, right? I'm going to give you the general ideas like I always do in all my videos and all of the books we have and everything. I'm giving you general information, but obviously you have to mold that and fine tune that to who your child is as always, okay? So Some babies are happy to learn to sleep without a pacifier, right? Some babies are fine to go to sleep without needing to be rocked and bounced and shaked and held and doing lunges and squats and getting all your exercise in while they're going to sleep. But some babies are just really less likely to develop attachments to sleep objects, such as a blanket, such as a pacifier dependency or something else. But sensitive babies get 100% completely addicted to that sleep dependency, even more so than a child that is not sensitive, because like some of you wrote here, they crave that touch. They crave that closeness. They crave needing that so deeply that it becomes a very deep-rooted dependency, more than it would with another child, okay? And just like no 2 days are alike, the sensitive baby will respond differently depending on how you proceed to help try to eliminate the sleep dependency where you're teaching them to sleep, okay? I remember the most sensitive sleeper I ever helped, and I've helped a lot of families. I've been doing this for 12 years, okay? At this point, I have helped thousands and thousands of families, but I still remember this little guy, Nate, okay? Super sensitive sleeper. He would only fall asleep. He was like 8, 9 months old. When his mother, no, must have been older because he was scratching. How old was he? I can look up in my database here. Okay, let's just pretend he was 1.5 because I don't remember all the details, but he must have been older. He was 1.5. He only fell asleep when the mother would hold him really, really tightly against her chest. Okay, holding him really tightly. He needed that touch. He needed that like physical pressure. Okay, but he would only sleep for short spans of time. Why? Because he would fall asleep with this intense pressure, this intense touching. The mother would put him down in his little bed, in his little crib, and he wouldn't be able to transition to the next sleep cycle because he didn't have that intense pressure anymore, and he needed it to remain asleep, which is really what all sleep dependencies are. But his was so deep-rooted, he had a really difficult time with it, okay? And when he woke up and it wasn't there, guess what he would do? Scratch his face, bang his lips, and it's not because he was self-destructive, it's because he was just like craving that pressure and didn't know how to get it. He would headbang. If his mother would come, he'd scratch her face. Like, it sounds violent, and you might be laughing while I'm watching this, but it's not funny, right? He fell asleep needing that intensity, woke up without it, and had to almost independently recreate it, but it was self-destructive. He was hurting himself. He was bleeding. He was banging his head. He was hurting his mother, not intentionally, okay? So how do you get a baby to sleep like this? How do you teach a child who is really sensitive and craving this touch so desperately, craving this pressure to sleep? We had to use weighted blankets. For sure, weighted blankets I'm a huge fan of. Obviously, if a child is old enough and it's safe enough, I'm not talking about using blankets or weighted blankets with little babies. Okay, he was older, he was 1.5, all right? He needed that because he needed that pressure. And before bed, we used to have to give him a massage. I taught the mother to do this. We'd have to like rub his head all the way down, his shoulders, his arms going all the way down, his body, his legs, all the way down to his toes to help him feel secure in his body, and always reminding him and always adding the pressure and things like that. He got used to falling asleep eventually with just the weighted blanket, but it was a process, okay? So remember, if you have a child that's sensitive, you're gonna treat them differently, okay? Hypersensitive babies who are even more than like the normal sensitive, their needs are ever changing, right? Because their needs change with the environment around them. So once Nate was falling asleep on his own with the weighted blanket, he was good. I just wrote this down to tell you all about it. His mother was almost like extraneous to the process. Like, he didn't need her anymore because he had the weighted blanket. He was fine. But then the weighted blanket started bothering him, right? Because like, oh gosh, now I don't want the pressure because it just changed. He went from craving the pressure so desperately to like not wanting it at all. So then he was standing up, and then there was extra stimulation. It's always a balance and always a process of just pure awareness, okay? So 2 things I want you to take away from this, learning about the sensitive child. I'm going to look at your comments in a minute, okay? Number 1, the sensitive baby teaches his mother a new level of kindness. That's all there is to it, right? We learn to slow down and just have compassion for his sensitivities that we might not normally understand. That's like the biggest takeaway I have from having a super, super sensitive daughter who is not a baby anymore. She's now 11, but it's taught me constantly, and I'm always doing this. Like, the things that I would not think about for my other children, I have to just go above and beyond to think about for her. She gets crazy migraines and headaches when she doesn't drink enough. That might seem silly. Of course, every mother should know that. But there's always something going on with her physically, and I just have to like stay in my game to be on top of it with her, right? Even when your child doesn't understand them, okay? So that's really important. And just have that extra level of sensitivity to understand how you can help your sensitive sleeper, because they might not respond to anything that you incorporate the same way another child would, okay? So that's that. Don't expect them to just get used to it. Don't expect them to just like, it's a phase, because your sensitive sleeper is who they are, okay? I see there's a lot of other questions more specifically about sleep. I'm not going to dig into them now, but Anu, please post them either if you're watching from the page, on the page, or in the Ultimate Baby Sleep group itself. We pick questions a few times a week and I come in with videos and answer them. But I really wanted you to all deeply understand the sensitive sleeper and the sensitive baby, okay? If you're watching the replay, tell me in the comments below. What makes you think you have a sensitive baby? What makes you think you have a sensitive sleeper? What are certain steps you can do to help your child sleep so it's not such an overstimulating experience, okay? Now, on that note, I'm just going to put this in here. I do still have some openings to work with me one-on-one, okay? I'm going to post the link here below. If you're interested, and I had a team working with me for some time, but I mean, I still do have my amazing team. But in terms of getting on calls, if you want to just hop on a one-on-one call with me, learn about how I can intimately guide you with your sensitive sleeper, with your intense sleeper, with the other temperaments we're going through, with adaptability, free-spirited, combination baby, set up a call with me. You can go to batyathebabycoach.com/sleep. I'm going to put this on in over here because I would love to chat with you. I would love to tell you a little bit about how I can help you sleep, see if we're a good fit to work together. I don't have tons of openings because it's still the summer. I only opened up a few, so if you go to that, you'll see there's only a slot or two. Definitely grab one while you can because they fill up pretty quickly. And I'd love to teach you how to gently work with your child's rhythms, work with your child's personality and sleep to get to this place, okay? But only set up a call with me if you're serious about sleep health. Only set up a call with me if you really, really, really want to see changes in your home, because I only want to help serious parents. I only want to help parents who are really ready to get on the other side of sleep, because you all know I love this if you've been following me for some time, and nothing fills me more deeply than helping fellow parents get to that place of empowerment and restedness and confidence, okay? So definitely set up a call. I would love to speak with you. I will see you all soon in the Ultimate Baby Sleep group answering your #SleepQ questions. If you're on the page, I would love to see you there in our group as well, okay? batyathebabycoach.com/sleep if you want to set up a one-on-one call with me to have me intimately guide you one-on-one to your sleep goals. Have a great one.